Hello, I'm Susan Simpson. I'm a clinical psychologist and schema therapist. And in today's 5-minute video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the flagellating overcontroller mode, the self-flagellating overcontroller mode, as it's called. Now, if you've noticed that you have a strong inner critic mode that beats you down, that criticizes or punishes you and sabotages you as soon as you make any progress in anything, at all, it could be one of two types of critic. One is a critic that we often refer to as the inner critic or the punishing critic. That's simply an echo of the past, of messages and voices that we've received in the past from people in your life, cultural messages, peers, and so on and so forth. And these messages have been kind of mean or critical in some way, or kind of very guilt-inducing or demanding. And we internalize those messages and they become almost like a voice in our head that's in our voice maybe, but the messages come from others, from outside of us. So we often refer to that as the inner critic or the punishing or guilt-inducing critic. The other type of critic, though, is a coping mode, is a way that we cope. And this is a mode that punishes, blames, and potentially sabotages us to help us in some way. And it's likely if you have one of these modes, as we call it, a self-flagellating or self-punishing overcontroller mode, it's possibly been around for a long time. And this is a mode that makes you feel that you're the bad guy, that there's something wrong with you, that you're the problem, so that you don't have to feel the pain, helplessness, hopelessness of a time in the past when things felt too much to bear, when the truth of what you were going through at the time was too painful in some way to grasp fully. So this is a side that may have helped you to feel in control of a situation where you felt powerless, where you felt out of control, by telling you were the problem, telling you that you were the bad guy in the situation. And you might be asking, well, how can that help? How can me being the bad guy help? Surely that makes you feel worse. Yes, maybe, but sometimes even pain can bring a sense of relief or even pleasure in masochistic kinds of ways. So pain is an interesting phenomenon. And when we think about this self-flagellating overcontroller mode, whose job it is to punish you, to inflict pain on you, to maybe sabotage you in some way, one of the functions of this mode is to keep your attachment relationship with your parents, with your caregivers safe. So its job is to hold on to an idealized view of your caregivers and to turn your feelings of anger against yourself. So if you feel it's not safe to express feelings of normal anger that all kids have when others don't meet their needs, it might be because you're fearful that others will fall apart, that they can't handle your anger, or that they'll resent you, abandon you, withdraw from you, reject you in some way. If it's not safe to express anger or sadness in that environment, then we have to do something else with those feelings. And that's where this mode comes in. Its job is to protect us from the truth, to actually hide the truth, and to hide maybe those old feelings of anger that feel too threatening or too difficult. Anger and sadness and similar feelings. It's to hide those feelings from us by making us the bad guy, the problem. So it needs to keep you as a failure. It needs to keep you as the problem, to give you a sense of hope. Because if you're the problem, then there is going to be a solution, or lots of solutions, all of which might give you a sense of hope that one day, if you get those solutions right, you will get the care, the love, the respect that you need and that you've been longing for. So by changing myself into what others need me to be, I can get that care by being perfect, people-pleasing, approval-seeking, fixing ourselves. And these are the solutions or the masks, the coping modes that give us the protection that we need, and also hide our true self from other people. So we tell ourselves, all I need to do is be more perfect, to be what others need me to be, or to cope in some way, to pretend to be what others need us to be. And sometimes that can operate in quite complex ways. But blaming ourselves can serve also a number of other functions. We might blame ourselves to buffer or numb ourselves from the pain and unpredictability of punishment from others. If I punish myself, at least it won't feel too much of a shock when I'm punished by others. Or it can appease others. If I punish myself, then others are less likely to punish me. Or we can punish ourselves to atone for feelings of badness and guilt for not being what others want us to be. So that self-blame can provide a sense of inner coherence. At least my world makes sense now. I'm punishing myself because I'm the bad one, and therefore that gives me, as I say, a sense of hope that things won't be so bad in the future by changing myself. But the problem is, as you will possibly know if you have this mode, that when we have this mode, when we're constantly having to wear a mask to try to get our needs met, to be what others need us to be, we're never really ourselves. We never really feel or express what we really feel, because this mode's job is to delude us, to hide the truth from us, and to hide our true self. So we never really are experiencing our authentic, vulnerable self. When we wear our masks, we're our coping masks, we're controlling our relationships. Others never really get to know us for who we really are. We might forget who we really are because we're so busy wearing all these coping masks. And that takes us right back to where we started, and what necessitated this mode in the first place, where we end up feeling those same feelings of hopelessness and helplessness and powerlessness, because we can't really get what we need. Ultimately, at our core, we all need to be loved for who we are, not for the masks that we're wearing. And ultimately, other people don't like being controlled, and other people can sense when we're wearing a mask, when they're not connecting with our true self. They feel that disconnection. And so we never have the opportunity, if we're stuck in this pattern, to learn that we're lovable the way we are, and that what happened was never our fault to start with, that we were never to blame for those circumstances as children. But there's often a fear underneath this mode that if we allow ourselves to see the truth, that I'm not the bad guy, that maybe things were hopeless and helpless in the past, that there's often that fear of being flooded with those old feelings from the past. And we get stuck in the past. Even in therapy, we can potentially end up sabotaging the therapy and all of our relationships with this mode, even though it has the best of intentions. And it was, this is the reality. This mode was only ever designed to help us survive childhood. It wasn't meant to be a mode that carried you through life. So as adults, we need to understand and get to know this self-flagellating side, to understand its survival role, why and how it kept us safe by just through this trick of the mind, this shift from I'm the bad guy, or from others are maybe not able to give me what I need to, if I'm the bad guy, I can get what I need. So we need to bring in our inner compassionate, healthy adult self, and our therapist who is by our side to learn to feel those feelings from the past, to learn to get in touch with that underlying vulnerable side that feels all those feelings of hopelessness and helplessness and powerlessness that led us to switch ourselves into that bad guy role. And if we can process what happened and process those old feelings, then we can create a different future based on the truth of what we really are, rather than through the lens of that self-punishing story that's been created by this clever mode that needed us to be the problem to survive, and to protect us from what was the unbearable truth, but becomes bearable with the help of your own healthy adult self and your therapist. Thank you for listening.